Awesome. So the first thing I like to do is acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we live on, so Australia and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and any community members who may be on the call today. I'm coming from the land of the Wallumadingle clan, which is around the Ryde area, as the traditional custodians of this land. So I like to start with a little bit of a hands up. So hands up who's ever left a gig that was absolutely demoralizing and nearly destroyed their soul. Yeah. Hands up anyone who's gone through their life and decided, hang on a second, is this what I really want to do with my life? That's me. Hands up anyone who is going through a change of life. Sometimes they're good changes, sometimes they're not so good changes. It could be a health scare. It could be, getting married or getting divorced. All of those things have significant changes in their life. Or it could even be a major illness or having children or them going to school or any of those sorts of things. So that's me as well. So all of those sorts of things. So if you've ever come to the point where you just want to look, I just need to go somewhere. I don't know where I want to go, but I want to go somewhere. Then this is the place for you. Good old life, huh? It sort of happens to us. Sometimes we'll defer our dreams, particularly if we've got families. Let me get rid of that hand. Sometimes we'll defer our dreams because there might be a really good valid reason. So I work in projects and program work. So it's always like, well, I'll do that after this gig is finished, or after I've secured the next gig, or after whatever it might be, or I'll do it after I've done this or achieved this, or this sort of thing has happened. So we have to just defer our dreams, and eventually that deferring of the dreams mean that they kind of get pushed away right down to the back of the cupboard. Stuff gets piled on them. We kind of forget what they are. So we want to kind of have the opportunity to kind of look out and go, well, okay, what is it that we want to do now? And this is where the now what comes in. So an event can cause us to rethink. It could be a life-changing event, or even just that never-ending march of time where you're like, hey, where am I heading? Was this the life that I was actually barreling towards? Do I really even want that for my life now? So it could be any one of those things. For me, it was when I left an absolutely demoralizing gig. I was in that for 2 years. At 6 weeks, I was like, I don't think this is for me. But I thought I could show them another way and it would be great. I could show them how to be nice, helpful humans. But 2 years later, it was affecting not only my self-esteem, but also how I was showing up with other people. So I was cranky and I was grumpy, and all those sorts of things was just not demoralizing, and left that gig and realized, oh my gosh, I just need to take some time. I need to take a bit of space and actually work out what I want to do with my life, because that was not it. But I always say, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will get you there. So you kind of need to have a little bit of a process around how you're going to do that. And this is the process. To get a better 2024 requires deliberate design. At the end of it, you get what I call a strategic life map. So it gives you a map for the next 12 months and beyond. And it includes these 4 adventures. The first adventure is Reflection Revolution. So Reflection Revolution is looking back against the past. It could be 3, 6, or 12 months. Generally, when we start, I say 12 months. What would you like to change if you had your time again? What are some of the things that you might need to do? But then having that reflection means that you'll come back and you'll look at like the incremental changes. What are the little things that I could do that will make a big difference? But you don't actually have the really big things. So you kind of need to go to the unearthed possibilities, where you just like release all of those barriers, structures, limitations that you might put on yourself, and really go wild with what that kind of future could look like. And that's where you go into the dream quest. You're really unbounded and free. And sometimes they're dreams that you've been in even unafraid to just breathe life into. They're things that you never want to say out loud. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
No worries.
I just got done with a meeting, so hopefully
Oh,
you don't
goodness.
mind me.
Okay, no worries. So we're just starting the process off. So I'll just skip back a couple of slides just to give you some context.
Yeah. Hello, Fiona.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you two know
Yeah.
each other?
No,
Oh, good.
just being polite.
Good.
But I will preface that I am living my life of purpose from our first sessions together, which would
Yeah,
have been almost
awesome.
3 years ago. So
Yeah,
if you
awesome.
recall,
I do.
my passion was around exploration, conservation, and it took a little bit of time, but I built the framework to allow me to hit the road, and now I'm living a life on the road in Western
Awesome.
Australia at the moment. So this
Excellent.
this image of the road is quite perfect for me. But
Yeah,
I'll shut up and let you carry on.
no worries. So what we are trying to do is get that purposeful road, determine exactly what that road is that we're going to drive down. So that's kind of where we're at. There's a
Beautiful.
full framework process that we go through to create the strategic life map. Reflection Revolution and Dream Quest are the first two, and they kind of give you the options, the possibilities, the things that you may want to focus on. Then we move into directional design, and I love a good quote, and this one here is from Stephen Covey, who I think was the very first book that I read that was much more in the vein of personal improvement, and it left a massive impression on me around the 7 habits of highly effective people. The best way to predict your future is to create it. So that's the preface that we go in with that strategic life map. You map out the next 3, 6, and 12 months, and decide where you're going to explore and invest your time. And if you're anything like me, you always have way more things that you really want to explore than you have time in the day to do. So I have a process of just kind of pushing them into the next year. So some things you can just push to the next year. It makes it a little bit easier. And then you can kind of have a look at what that might look like. And then the next year you look at it and you go, oh, there's things I pushed into the next year. You can either push them into the following year or realize that they're actually not what you want to do. So it's kind of a helpful structure process. The final part that kind of, and I've called it anchoring on purpose, because what it does is it actually anchors you against the dreams and the process, that long-term vision that you're trying to work through, that long-term purpose that you're trying to achieve. And it really puts what activities and actions you're going to inch you closer to a life that's going to suit you perfectly. Any questions on that so far? Straightforward?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, I love the idea of it's just super powerful to plan like what you think your next not only 30, 60, 90, but into the future and have an actual kind of North Star of where you're heading towards.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Does make it really good. And I'm kind of feeling a little bit like validated. So thanks, HBR. Then the latest their latest newsletter, they've actually got the big idea is to use strategic thinking to create the life you want. I'm like, yes, that's the same as my idea. So that's I've had a lot of people reach out to me, go, this is what you do, isn't it? And I'm like, yes, this is what I do. So using that element of strategic thinking does help you with that. So it uses a lot of the elements that you get from a corporate perspective to create that purpose and values to sort of help you work through. So I was hoping that we might want to start right now. Are we okay to start right now?
Sure.
Okay, all you need is 2 things, pencil or pen and a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're highly technical, you may want to type it, but I think writing it has the old school part of it is kind of helpful. So let me know when you've got a piece of paper and you're ready to go.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Go to 1 second, Chris. Searching. That's what happens when you're on the road.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually doing a farm stay, house sitting on a farm in WA. So the desk next to me does not have. I've got a red pencil, but that's fine.
That'll work just as well. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to do a bit of the reflection revolution. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your piece of paper. I want you to draw a line down the center of it. And I want you to write on one column, went well. And on the other column, do differently. So this is the first one of the templates that we would use as we're going through that. Look at the last 12 months and just write down 3 things in the went well column and 3 things in the do differently column. Just 3. 3 things that you would like to do that went well in the last 12 months and 3 that you want to repeat and 3 things that you want to do differently. We'll get some thinking music happening.
Okay. So went well and you want to repeat. Okay.
Yeah, so just for went well will be enough for the moment, because they're kind of things that you may want to do again. They may not be possible to do again, but just, you know, what went well in the last 12 months. Let me know when you've got 3 of each. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So one of the rules that I have with any of the programs that I do is if you feel like sharing, you can share. But if you absolutely don't feel like sharing, you don't have to share. Now, knowing it's recorded, that might be another reason why you might go, no, I don't want to share. But does anybody have something in the last 12 months that went well? Yeah, go, Chris.
No, I mean, up to you, Fiona, if you'd like to go first.
I don't mind. Do you want all 3 at once or just one thing?
Let's do all 3 if you don't mind. Yeah.
So I had started a new job, and so I managed in starting that new job to actually bring some order into what could only really be described as chaos, to the benefit of the organization I'd started with. I started a writing practice seriously, and that's been something that I've found has been very rewarding. And towards the end of the last 12 months, I started saying no to some things that I had been saying yes to that I really didn't want to do.
Yeah, nice.
And I got a bit of clarity, at least on a couple of things I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And that's usually a really good place to start, is what I don't want.
Mm.
And that's actually a really hard thing to do, to say no to people when they're probably used to you saying yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, well done. That's awesome. Chris, did you want to share?
Yes. So what went well for me? I was actually laid off exactly 1 year ago and about a week
Yeah.
ago, and that was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because it allowed me to it forced my hand, which was I was eventually going to be working on the road. Well, I had been approved to work on the road this year, but being laid off meant that I could actually be present and do the exploring and the adventure that I wanted to do. So that worked well. It allowed me to build the foundations for a coaching practice, which is really designed to help serve my former self. And part of that, Christina, which I think you'll enjoy, is having people that I work with take the Clifton Strength Finder test.
Oh, amazing.
So thank you for that. And then similar to you, Fiona, I really started writing a lot, and I started building a personal brand on Twitter, on X, as a way, again, to share my lessons learned, all the experience I've had in my life, and it's really taken off. And I'm going to now replicate that across LinkedIn, now that I know like what resonates. So those are the three things that I'm really proud of, that have done well this year.
Amazing. Cool. I'll share my three as well, because I think it's only fair to do that. I completed last year a neuroscience foundational certificate, which was 6 months worth of pretty intensive medical journal reading stuff. It was full on, but I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud that I got an A+ in it as well. It was absolutely a topic that I enjoyed, and I loved learning more and more about it. I also ran Design Your Life on Purpose, so this program in a corporate as a pilot, and that went really well as well. It was so many lessons learned about how to pitch it differently. It was fantastically. And I had a week with my sister in Mudgee in November, which was awesome. So there are three things that went well. What about do differentlies? Is there any do differentlies that we want to share? And this one, we can just share one.
I would have taken a break. I effectively went from one job to another.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
With pretty much, like not really a break. And if I had that time again, despite the pressing needs of the new organization, I think I would take a longer break.
Yeah, no, fair enough. A good one. Chris, do you have one do differently?
Yeah, I think the one that really stands out to me is just having a little bit more structure. But I've been a bit easy on myself because I've been so structured my whole life, and this was a year to kind of get outside of my comfort zone and to do things a little bit differently. But as I head into this year, I want to get a little bit more structure in my weeks so that I can accomplish a little bit more of the goals that I have set for myself.
Yep, makes sense. One of my do differentlies is last year I also co-organized, led and presented at a conference on change management, and I'm not doing that this year. So that is a really good thing for me. I'm very excited. It was a significant investment of time, and while it's awesome on the day, gosh, there's a lot of time that goes into those things. So yeah, I'm not doing that. So that gives you a bit of a taste of Reflection Revolution. So all we've done is just do some work wells and do differentlies, but there's a couple of different templates that we can use that kind of triggers your thinking in a different way to sort of look at what it could be. The idea is that you want to start to see some patterns, start to see some things that come up on the list more than once in the repeat or the do differently. And then that way you kind of know they're the areas that you want to focus on for that incremental improvement when you move forward. The next phase then is dreaming and dream quest. And it's one of the things that as adults, we kind of get it a little bit beaten out of us as we sort of in primary school, it's okay. You get into high school, it's definitely not okay to just be a dreamer and to think of things that may not be the traditional route of, going to uni, getting a job, getting married, having kids, all of those sorts of things, anything that's out of that realm. People just don't kind of understand. And then even as you become an adult, it is really hard to have an idea about something that's a little bit out there. It doesn't even have to be dramatically out there, but a little bit out there that you want to pursue. And then you'll immediately have people's thoughts and opinions as to what that should be or could be or would be. Often you'll get people that will immediately tell you that it's a bad idea and that you shouldn't pursue it. Part of that is them. Part of that is the thought process of them going through not being brave enough to do that themselves. So it's much easier to pick on somebody else's idea than to provide them some support and some guidance. But the other thing, so that's their fear talking about that. But the other thing is those ideas are often very Germanic in that, like they're a they need to germinate. They're very, very small. They're very, very tender. They're like a little sprout that has just sprouted. So they're not fully formed. They don't have all the answers to it. So while they might be thinking they're giving you kind of, here, think about all of these things, sometimes all they're doing is just basically putting a big pin into your little balloon and deflating the whole thing. So they can be quite fragile. So I tell people to be very careful who you share your dreams with. So you want those to be the people that are going to help you make those dreams happen. So two things then. We've been beaten out of ours, throughout life and throughout school and uni, that there's one correct answer to everything, that there's a right and a wrong, and there just isn't. How you live your life, what you do with your life, there isn't one way to do it, or even just, 10 ways to do it. There's many, 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 many ways to do it. So in the Dream Quest part, I get you to really kind of open up. And sometimes this can be scary. So sometimes it can be a process where people have got, look, I've got no idea. I definitely know what I don't want, but I have no idea what I do want. And so there's a couple of different questions that we can use to sort of spark that. One of the easiest and simplest ways to start is to just think about, what are you curious about? What would you like to know more about? So for me, I'd like to learn more about pottery. I don't know if I like it because it looks really messy, and I'm not sure if I'm going to like the messiness of it. But I'm curious about that. I wouldn't mind finding out a bit more. Is there anything that either of you are curious about?
My problem is that the answer to that question is everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice. I know that feeling. Yeah, it's very much my way of operating.
Mm.
I'm curious about loads and loads of things.
Yeah, prioritizing can be difficult. If I had to answer this question, like the thing that always kind of comes back to me, and I felt this recently when I saw a crocodile in the wild and I was filming it with my drone, was just like the feeling I got from witnessing wildlife in its like most purest form. And I'd be curious to learn how to become a not a professional, but like an animal photographer, how I could like really learn how to capture the essence of like nature in its most beautiful form.
Yeah. And often one of the classic coaching questions you'll get in the Dream Quest phase is, if you knew you could not fail, what would you do? So that is a really good question to ask yourself, and it's one of the questions. There's many questions that can spark that, including something about, when do you feel most alive? So Chris, that must have been an amazing moment for you to see that crocodile in the wild. You must have felt incredibly alive and connected to the world at that particular point in time. So there might be things that are just like, what makes you feel most alive, most attentive, most there, most in that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's Dream Quest. So if any ideas have sparked in your head right now about what your dreams might be, make sure you capture them. Capture them in whatever method you want. So I've got a dream book that's like a physical hard copy book, but I find that a little hard to maintain in the long term. So I've got an Evernote file that every time I come across a dream or think of a dream that I want to have, I just put it on that list. So it just goes straight in there as something that I might want to pursue. So I would love to be an international music promoter. That goes on the list. Don't know how, don't know why. That part's irrelevant for now. It's just that's something that'll be really, really fun to do. I'd like to learn the guitar. So that's the keyboard / guitar in one. I think that'd be super fun. And I've mentioned it to my music teacher, and he's rolled his eyes because he thinks I'm a lunatic. And that's okay, because I know I am a little bit. So all of those different things. So make sure you keep a note of them, because one of the hard things is that you'll go, I had this really good idea and now I've lost it. So keeping a note of those ideas, whether you pursue them or not, is really helpful. Okay. So I'm going to go through the next phase just by talking to you about it. So the idea is that you choose 3 to 5 dreams that you're going to focus on for the next 12 months. And then we literally map them out. So we have a 12-month calendar, and you map out what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. One of the things that's important about that is to put the bigs in. Now, the bigs might be different for different people. Some of the bigs for me is that week that I told you about in November where I spent with my sister. That's a big for me. So that goes in the calendar, that doesn't get moved, that it gets locked in. Other things might be South by Southwest or TEDx or other things like that might be big things for me, but it could also be big birthdays. My mum turns 80 this year. My brother turns 50, 60. Always you've got to remember, do the calculation, 60. So it'll be really good to be able to make sure I've got time to celebrate those. I don't want all of my dreams crowding some of those things in life that you really want to be a part of, that you really want to be there for. Holidays going there, that sort of stuff. So you kind of map it out. Most people find that once they've gone through stages 1 and 2, the first 2 adventures, Reflection, Revolution, and Dream Quest, directional design is easy. They can come up with 3 to 5 dreams in no time, and they're ready to map those out. The key, though, is to make sure that you word your dream right. So from a neuroscience perspective, we are designed to be risk adverse. So the problems and the issues and the concerns are going to be almost like a big of a screen. So they're really big, they're ways really big, because that's kind of how our brain's looking for them. It is constantly scanning for what's going to harm us. Whether that's mentally harm us or physically harm us, it's constantly looking for things that are going to hurt in some way, shape, or form. So if you word your dream in a way that it's a toward response, what you want instead, what the outcome's going to be, how is it going to look when you get there, then that works really well. One famous study is when they had 10 people that have had a heart attack, basically change your life or you'll have a heart attack and you'll die. Only one of them actually did change their life because they transferred what they wanted rather than what they were afraid of. So exercise or I'm going to die is an away response. Exercise because then I get to run around with my grandchildren is a toward response. It's giving them the thing that they want instead. Now, there is also a proportion of people that are motivated much more by the away than they are by the toward, but most people tend to be motivated, much more likely to be successful if you have a toward state. Does that make sense? Because it's complicated concept, but clear?
I use that in sales a lot.
Yeah. Yep, you would. You're really good at it. Yeah. So it's very, very important to sort of help people understand what they want, what you want, what that dream really is going to look like for you. When we run through the details of the course, there's also another element that's called a goal hierarchy. That means you can add a why to your goal and a how to it, and it actually just amps it up another notch, makes it really quite powerful in terms of it, because you've identified not only what the dream is. So say healthy and fit is a fairly common one for most people. Healthy and fit is one. So that would be the goal, the dream that you're trying to achieve. And you might have lots of hows about swimming or exercise results or eating or whatever it might be the hows. How could be lots of different things. And the why for each person might be different. So my why is because I want to have enough energy to be able to run a 2 to 3 day workshop without feeling absolutely shattered at the end of it. Like, so that's my why, but somebody else's my why be, they want to be around for, many, many years or whatever it might be. So it kind of really, really helps. Okay. The last part is anchoring, and I'm going to spend a bit of time on a couple of these elements to just explain what they are to sort of help. And then I've got a link that I'll send you that you can get one of these in particular. So this is where, if you've ever tried anything and you've not succeeded for whatever reason, sometimes you just need to put some support mechanisms or anchors in place. Not anchors as in holding you back, anchors, but just in grounding you, making sure that you're grounded in the things that you need to do. So let me talk you through a couple of options. One support mechanism is to make it visual. So my goals are all set in a mind map, and I have little icons next to them, so I know what they are. I am a very visual person, so I find that a really good way of doing that. But even write it down vision trumps every other sense. So the more that you can write it down, the better it'll be. Concentrating on the process. Yep.
Can I just say, the visual one just being so important. I recently wrote something on this. Every day I journal every day, and one of the key things that I write down is one of my life goals or a quarterly goal, is just a gentle reminder of what I'm doing on a daily basis. And when I use Evernote as well, and I did a control find in Evernote, and I just did in quotes around Australia. So one of my dreams was to drive around Australia, and I wrote that 187 times over the course of a year and a half.
Wow.
And in 2023, I'm driving around Australia. So.
Yep. Yeah. that repetition part of that making a visual is really important. So it brings it right to the surface, and your brain, your subconscious in particular, goes, okay, that's what we're doing. We're driving around Australia. I just need to work a how now to make that happen. So
Yeah, it's manifestation. It's beautiful.
yeah, it is. It's very powerful. And your subconscious is magical. And once you've got that towards state, once you know what that looks like, it literally starts working away in the background about how to do it. That's why you get that, you know, if you're wanting to buy a new car and you're looking at a particular brand, that's why all of a sudden you start to see all those cars around, because you've drawn your attention to it and it's kind of giving you that awareness, focus from it. It's important to concentrate on the process. So you're not going to be able to run a marathon, can't run at all today. Tomorrow you run 42 kilometers. You need to build that up and work out what the thing you need to do to be able to get there. So what are the actions that you're taking? And that is also helpful in that sometimes the goals can be really, really big and really quite lofty, and they can feel like you're failing until you finally get there. So having some targets of what you're actually doing can make that help. What can you put in place to give you a bit more predictability? Can somebody help? You know, are you good if you're more reliable if you go with somebody with your exercise? Exercise is a really easy one to use. That's why I use it quite easily. And then persist. So the neuroscience research shows us that it takes between 18 and 250 days for a new habit to be installed. So that's a significant amount of time. So that's over 4 weeks before you can even go, okay, now I can relax my attention to it. So really that diligent focus, and celebrate each success. So even if you have a dream or a goal, I always encourage people to put what they're going to do to celebrate once they've achieved that goal and that dream. So literally, what is it? Like, I'm going to buy emerald earrings, or I'm going to go and do this other thing. So literally write it down. It makes it much more easier for you to celebrate rather than go, oh, that was great. Awesome. Good on me. Pat on the back. I'll just move on to the next thing now. Make sure you mark it in some way that your subconscious also goes, oh, that's something we want to take attention of. We're going to continue to do that. And then there's the 4 elements that are on here that also provides the anchor. So understanding your why, personal and professional why, can also help. And there's a formula, who knew, that it says I contribution, so that impact. So you can use that formula to kind of work that out. And it takes a little while to get the wording exactly right. But I know that what I do is I creatively collaborate with people. So I collaborate with people in a creative and unusual way, so that whatever they do, they can create a better tomorrow. Whether that better tomorrow is for themselves, whether that better tomorrow is for other people. Understanding your values. And I've flipped this a little bit in that I think the values are really important, but I think it's almost a little bit more important to have guiding principles. Like, what are the things that are really important that when you're looking at something, you're going, it's got to be these things for me to do it. So one of the things is fun. If it's not fun, I don't want to have anything to do with it. The second one is it needs to be like really stimulating mentally for me. Like I don't mind if it's really hard to do, but I love it when I try and solve that. And the third is I love spending time with people. I love collaborating with people. So if I can get those 3, then I've got an absolute win. So they're kind of the guiding principles. Strengths is about understanding what you're fabulous at. So Clifton's has a strength assessment, and I'll talk to you about a discount that I can give you on that as well, which is extraordinarily powerful in actually knowing who you are and what you're innately talented at. The premise is, once you know that, you just concentrate on the stuff you're really good at, and the stuff that you're not so good at will look after itself. And it is incredibly, incredibly true once you work out what that is and where you concentrate that effort. Would you agree, Chris?
I'm just smiling because it's like, it was so eye-opening, and I was floored when I saw the results, and I just tried to incorporate my natural strengths in my day-to-day life, and specifically with work. And like, because I can't remember when I took it. I think it was maybe late 2020, and in 2021 and 2022, my on-target earnings like went through the roof. Like, it was a hockey stick, because I really focused in on like what I was naturally good at.
Yeah, it's really quite surprising and powerful. Yeah, I've got another slide that talks a little bit about what mine are, but I'm conscious that I've got a little bit more, they've gone over a fraction. So let me just continue. I don't know if any of you have either of you heard about the contextual beacon or a one word that you use. I've got 2003 there, which is a bit of a mistake. So 2014. Anyone heard of a one word? Yeah, so some people will choose a one word. I heard about the concept from Dr. Jason Fox, and he calls it a contextual beacon. And I love that because it has so much more gravitas to it than just saying, I've just got my one word for the year, that contextual beacon. And what he talks about is that allows you to balance that uncertainty and being able to brace opportunities throughout the year. But it also gives you, strangely, quite powerful focus. So it's one of those things where you kind of like, a word, really, is that going to make a big difference? It makes a massive difference. So if I had to say the three things that you would always, that makes a big difference, get your strengths done, because that makes an incredible difference. Once you understand what your value, what you're good at, you can actually engineer things to just do more of that. The second thing is build a habit of reflecting and dreaming, because that will never keep you, that will always help you in terms of incrementally improve. And this is the third one. So making sure you have a word for the year, because it makes it an incredibly powerful way to do it. So a little bit about strengths. If you focus on your deficits rather than the strengths, but 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life. Yes, please, I love an excellent quality of life. And 6 times as likely to be engaged in their job. So really, really good. Let's get on to contextual beacon. So the SMART goals are basically done because we couldn't predict that COVID-19 was going to have such a dramatic impact on our lives. We can't actually predict what's going to happen in 3 months' time. So why are we setting a goal that's specific and measurable that's time bound, when really we can't predict any of these sorts of things? So it actually just makes us and sets us up for failure. So it does that thing that I mentioned before, where you've got a goal and then you can't achieve it, and so you feel like you're failing every single time. So it kind of creates that. So having that one goal, that contextual beacon, allows you to balance those conflicting areas of focus and opportunity grabbing, but it needs to be inspiring, instantly understandable, and memorable. So it can't be some quirky character from a movie that nobody knows about, because you want to be able to get people to use it. So I share it with my family. I share it with my friends. So if I'm wavering at all, my friends will go, hey, this year is blah, you're not doing blah. So it becomes a very powerful anchor, literally. It could be an archetype. Pioneer was my word for 2016 when I try and stuff. It could be a pirate, an animal that has a characteristic you're looking for. I amp it up a bit. So I take it next level, because that's the way I roll. And I add an image. So this is my image for 2024. I also get it everywhere. So I've got it on my necklace so that I can have that around with me all the time. It is my screensaver on my phone. Like, I get it as one of those things that's constantly reminding me that this is the year for me to spark. This is the year for me to set little fires off in people and in myself, all over the place, so the thing's working. So it's super duper powerful. All right. 4 adventures we've talked about: reflection, revolution, dream quest, directional design, and anchoring. And I've spent a bit of time, we've done a little bit of reflection, revolution, talked a bit about dream quest and directional design, and talked a little bit about anchoring. All right, let me just talk to you about the program. So the program is, there's 2 options: a 1 day in real life or 6 weeks virtual. All of the information is on the links that I'm going to send you. But basically you do some preparation. We run through all of those. You get a package of goodies. You get coaching, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and then invitation. If you're somebody who wants the luxury of just spending the whole day on themselves, then 1 day is perfect. And virtual has exactly the same stuff, but it's over 6 weeks. But if you like time to process information and percolate between sessions and take action, then it's for you. So why listen to me? I have been working in organizational change management, personal development for over 25 years, which sounds scary. I know change, I know how to plan change, I know how to start it, I know how to adjust it, I know how to track it, and I know how to embed it because I've been doing it for so long. For this particular program, I've spent the last 10 years and over 17K. So you don't need to do that because I've done all of that. That enables you to design process that gives you that strategic life map. So that is what I've done to do that. And I love it. I love helping people. Does it work? Yes. 40% increase in life satisfaction, which is pretty material. And Chris is almost like a little poster boy for me today, talking about it. So there's different stories. So somebody who knew exactly what they wanted, Deborah, who came along to the program, and she was very clear on what she wanted to do. And she was just, can we get to the planning part? I don't want to go through these other things. But she was very nice. So she diligently followed through. And what happened was the things that she thought she was going to focus on, she didn't end up focusing on, focused on completely different things. Because she realized that the stuff that she was thinking about was not quite where she wanted to spend her time. Or you could be somebody like Sarah, who came with no idea at all. She literally spent the first 30 minutes crying. She didn't have any blinding flashes on day one, but she did the exercises and the activities, and a long denied dream had surfaced. She wanted to be a doctor. What the program had provided with those options and possibilities, and it just opened it up for her to realize that she could do things that she didn't think she could do. And she started her bridging course in February 2022, starting to learn some of the things that she needed to do. She had to drop out for it for personal reasons, but it actually doesn't matter, because that's the thing that society tells you is if you start a bridging course in science, then you have to absolutely complete it. Well, you don't. If circumstances change and things adjust, then you need to adjust with it, because that is how life is. Life is like that. Okay, so I'm going to send you a couple of links now in the chat. I'm going to send you Design Your Life on Purpose. So I'm going to send you the information associated with that. So if you're interested, and if you haven't been spammed by me already, then this gives you all of the information that you need to find out more about it. The second link is if you want to schedule a one-on-one to talk through it a little bit more and what might work for you, because there's different options, the 1 day, the virtual, or there's also strengths-based coaching. Then you can do that as well. And the third thing I'm going to send you is the Contextual Beacon Guide. Now, the third thing is completely free. So you'll get a guide for how to complete your Contextual Beacon. It'll pull you into an email sequence just so that you're aware. So you'll get reminders and stuff about it. The early bird for this program this time around, I'm also offering doing a strengths assessment for half price. So it's normally around 400 and something. So I'm doing it for around 200 and something. So if you really want to understand what your strengths are, it's an extremely valuable thing. And there's also some early bird pricing in place as well. Okay, questions? The last part was a bit of a rush, so I apologize. Any questions around that?
I don't have any questions because I know we've obviously had sessions, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
My objective for today was just to get a bit of a refresher. I'm really glad that I was able to jump in because a lot of it has resonated with me, and it's stuff that I've started to implement with the clients that I've been working with this year. So thank you for that. I think one of the things that I would like to do would be to do one of the day sessions, but do you do those in person, or are they all strictly in person, or?
So the 1 day session is face-to-face. So yeah,
okay.
But the virtual session is obviously virtual, but it's over a little bit longer time. It's harder to sustain, and Fiona and I were talking about this earlier part of the call. Keeping them quite distinct and separate rather than trying to do a hybrid makes it too hard to try and do the hybrid because of the way that they're structured. The virtual session is too much content to get people through in like a couple of hours, which then their attention span wanes. So I actually had to break it down to make it a digestible components. Otherwise, it just feels like I've got a fire hose and I'm just shoving it in your face. Which today may have felt a little bit like that as well. But
no, this was it was good for me, and I know that we only did a couple sessions, which were again really pivotal in kind of designing a life of purpose and kind of getting me on track. So I'm really grateful for that. But I'll I don't have any questions, so I'll pass it on to Fiona. I actually have a call at 4 that I'm going to drop for. So
yeah, no worries.
Very happy to see you again, Christina, and very nice to meet you, Fiona.
Yeah, no worries.
Happy travel.
See you. Bye.
Yeah, I know, what a life. How cool. Any questions from you, Fiona?
I don't think so. A lot of the concepts that you're talking about are very familiar to me. And it's been really I think it's a lovely process. And I'll reflect on it, but I don't have any immediate questions. There might be something kind of percolates overnight, but
yeah, no worries. Absolutely. I'm a reflector as well, so I don't always have the questions straight away, but sometimes I just need a little bit more time to process it and understand what is the nugget I want to get out of it. So yeah, awesome. So if you feel comfortable, I'll go off record. If you can give me your physical address, if you feel comfortable, you don't have to, and then I can send you all of those things. So let me just let me just get off record, because that's important. Nobody needs to hear